Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Bob. It's going to be a montage, smorgasbord of shamanic meditation and worldview. Drinking my mocha. You know, going out, so I had to hit the doctors today. Thank you, darling. Oh, sweetie, could I have some extra napkins?
Extra napkins?
Yeah. So these guys try to do the right thing, even though we're a corporation, right? So that right there is a shamanic view. Walk in.
Sweetie.
Do you have any marmalade?
No, we sure don't.
What do you
I
got?
have the grape, the strawberry, and blackberry.
Oh, I'll try blackberry. Never had
All right.
that. Just start breathing, right?
You guys, sweetheart?
I think so.
All right. Blackberry is my favorite, so.
I'll give it a shot. No. So what you do is you focus your conscious mind. Here I am in a very distracted kind of place. This place is designed to distract you, put you in another state. But when you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, what it does, it forces your diaphragm to lift your whole shoulders back. So it straightens your column and your central nervous system, right? So everything can flow nicely, right? See it clearly. So, when you start doing that, you start seeing things like, oh, I didn't pay the gas bill. Oh, I left my shoes outside. Oh, I didn't pick up the garbage. This is it. This is seeing what's up here is not your brain, not your consciousness. This is your RAM, random access memory. And that's why all your central nervous intakes, your eyes, your nose, your ears, your mouth, right? And if we were better suited, we would have, our ears would be bigger, right? You know, we'd be like elephants, big ears, small mouth, but we got a big mouth. So it's always running. Run. Right? So focus on your breath. So no matter what you see on the screen or hear me speaking to you, telling you stories, I want you to just focus your conscious mind on your breath. And as you do, you breathe in the prana. That is the life force of God. And so you feel that life force. And you spread it throughout your whole body. So you're breathing it in, it goes into your lungs, your heart pumps your blood through your lungs. eliminate the toxins of your body. You get rid of more toxins from your body through your breath than you do through excretion, right? Through sweat, piss, shit, vomit. The things that you breathe out of your body, they're more volatile. So they are the things that can hurt you, right? And when you eat something, our diets these days are, like, who knows what that was made from, right? Tastes real buttery. I tried the blackberry. Let's see what's in the blackberry. I'll tell you. Let's see. Ingredients. Very small print. Let's see. Pectin. Corn syrup. Blackberries. Sugar. Citric acid. Well, doesn't sound too bad. Not like it's going to kill you like immediately. So, the world we live in is one of distraction, one of illusion, one of you don't have a clue who the fact you are. Right? So keep breathing. Keep breathing. So,
That's food. Good stuff. Outstanding. How did you over here? You just talk here.
good. Good. No, it's stress. It's vomit.
Oh, yeah, what's that about?
But the illusion is, it's like grandma. No, grandma just arrived.
Grandma just arrived.
Yeah.
So I've got your blueberry pancakes with topping on it.
Okay.
Here's your blueberry syrup for them.
Mm-hmm.
Then I've had your casserole with eggs
Let's put it right
right here. And your selection of meat.
and some maple syrup if you got
Maple syrup.
it. Those little bottles. Grandma has arrived.
Oh, man, must be, right?
Must be. Must be. I don't know how very cool it is, but here we go. Thank you,
Now,
John.
would you like me to fill up this coffee? at
Sure.
all?
Yep.
Of course.
Kathy is so nice. She's trying. Ah. Do, do, do.
No.
So how long have you been doing this, Kathy?
Well, I've been here about 2 months.
They haven't quite given you your apron yet.
No, but I've been in restaurants for over 35 years.
Yes, I thought so.
I've ran restaurants and everything, so I just love people. So,
So where did you grow up?
Louisiana,
Oh, what part?
West Carroll Parish, Northern Tip Corner.
Uh-huh.
So right up there with Monroe,
Yeah,
Delhi,
yeah.
Regal, that area.
It's really sad what they've done to that state, the oil industry.
I don't even like going back there. It's just depressing.
Well, it's deadly.
Oh, I know.
I mean, I remember when I was a little kid in the 50s, all those wetlands and all of that nature.
Cypress trees on the bayou
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the harvest moon. It's
Yep.
just a beautiful
Yep.
sight.
And everyone, it's interesting. In the mid 60s, I was a newspaper photographer for the Half Point Enterprise, Half Point, North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
And Half Point was a rich town. It was the center of furniture, right?
Uh-huh.
So, and it was a union town. And so everyone on the shop was union, black or white.
Yep.
So everyone got paid the same thing, right? Everyone went out to the parking lot and got in the same Buick.
Drove. Everything was the same.
Right? Yes, it was a black side of town, white, but everyone knew everyone's name. It was Mr. Smith, Mr. Jones.
That was down
Everyone got along like you couldn't believe, right?
Robinson's
that was-
family grocery.
But you
I
went
remember that.
outside in that neck of the woods. It was sundown town, right? And see, the sundown town wasn't just for black folk. So anybody who they wanted to do something to.
Well, see, that's Lake Providence right now. No delivery trucks or anything go in there after 3 o'clock because too many trucks have been stolen. Too many, the whole trucks.
Right. Well,
Not
if you're
just-
going to steal it, that's the way to go.
That's it. So they wait. So now they're not allowed to make any type of deliveries after 3 o'clock in that whole town.
And crime, everyone's going on about crime, right? So my career, the statistics, right? We have less crime today per capita
Oh
than we did in the 70s was the worst.
Oh, I'm sure.
80s and 90s, even worse, but
Yeah.
weirder. And then after 9/11, things just went like this. And, but there is no crime.
No, everybody wants to talk about it instead of it being done.
Right.
As you talk about it, it's happening.
And the other side of the coin is, it's like, I'm a very church guy, so everybody's going on about, abortion. And I said, okay, I'm not a big fan of it. Let's go take care of these young girls. Let's go teach the kids.
What I don't understand is why are we giving Ukraine all this money to get it? The money we're giving Ukraine, we're giving every American $1 billion.
Last year, we spent $190 billion on revamping our nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
At $190 billion, we could have had single payer health care, right? No more homeless, and everyone goes to college.
Programs for these young adults to where they know what they're getting into.
So they have a life.
That's it.
And same with churches.
I'm scared for my boys. My boys are 26 and 21. I tell them I'm scared for them.
The world that we're going into is, I'm in my 80s and pushing towards it. So I have to go see doctors just so I don't get sick. And I have to tell them what to do.
Yes.
I mean,
They're sad.
I can do that. I was a doctor, so I can do that.
My husband was a corpsman in the Navy, so whenever he goes to the doctor, I hate taking him to the doctor.
Right. He tells them what to.
Why did you do that?
Right.
That does not have anything to do. I'm like, shh. Just let him do his job. He doesn't do his job.
Yes,
I'm like,
exactly. That's why they call it practice. He's practicing on you.
just like my son is seeing this. He goes to see his counselor.
Mhm.
Well, she's like in her 70s, and she keeps prescribing him medication back in the 80s and 90s. And I'm like, oh, honey, no,
Right.
you got to get someone new.
Right.
You got to get someone new. Let me check on their food. How is it?
It's grandma's.
All right, then it must be good.
Not my grandma, but grandma.
It is a grandma.
Right. So that's what I do. I talk to people like that. Are you still breathing out there? How many are you left? Everyone left. Well, most of you actually watch this later. Got a little toasty. Turn the AC up.
Which is, it's still, I know a lot of kids smoke weed in high school, but it's still a lot to handle, I think, when you're in high school. It's a pretty wicked combo, I will say. I was really a heavy stoner, and the Adderall made it so that I could keep smoking, and it wouldn't get me as high, which was I was in for a rude awakening when I tried to smoke weed the way I used to, but I stopped taking Adderall. It was just like, whoa, man, I'm driven out, man. It was totally brutal, but I think the Adderall made me super focused, and the weed trapped me in my head. So I was kind of just like spiraling internally. That was kind of the combination. I mean, weed has acted as an upper for me typically, whereas Adderall was kind of a downer. That's kind of the thing they say, where for folks who don't have ADHD, they take Adderall and it's like cocaine, and they go crazy and they're so hyper. And then for those who have ADHD, they take Adderall and it totally makes them really still and really quiet and kind of in whatever they're doing, and brings you down. It sort of has the inverse effect. So that was kind of a strange cocktail, but yeah, it did kind of bring me back up, ironically, because the Adderall had pulled me down so much. They said when you smoke weed, you got trapped in your head. Was your head a bad neighborhood at the time? Oh, baby, you know it.
Oh, baby, you know it.
Mean streets. Okay.
Yep. So is your head a bad neighborhood? That's why you need to conscious intent I am. Conscious intent I am. Conscious intent I am. And what is that conscious intent I am? But love's co-creation, right? That's the only thing there is. Everything else is an illusion, right?
Okay. Don't walk down those at night. Okay, you gotta have a little pepper spray on you. So I've had that experience of getting trapped in my head when I first smoked marijuana. And when is that? Oh, a long time ago. Yeah. I was in college. But I kept smoking and I asked myself, well, I'm getting trapped in my head. And it's not good. Why am I smoking it? But then it got a lot better. So why did you continue if it was getting you trapped in your head and that was an unpleasant place to be? Well, I actually did eventually stop. I took a large break for maybe 8 months to a year. When I came off the Adderall, the weed on its own just was so it was just dark. And frankly, I think drugs kind of pronounce whatever's going on.
No kidding. Drugs pronounce what was going on. No. That's why I don't need drugs. Because I can see what's going on. Thank you, John. Yep, warm me up.
You want any in the other cup or just this one?
I'm going to this one.
Okay.
So let's see the hand you write with. Like that. Honest girl. little passive aggressive. You don't like humans. Um, really wild, crazy dreams. A lot of deja vu. And deja vu starts talking to wake up.
It's my time to wake up.
So let's see the starters. Much smarter than you give yourself credit for, and you have what is known as common sense.
Believe that or not.
Mm-hmm. And the
My
best
sister
trait.
had book smart. She was always 4.0, but you'd say, I was like, one day I told her, I was like, Beth, you just take the cake. She goes, you're making me a cake? And I'm like, oh my Lord. I'd rather not have book smarts than be common sense. I'm sorry.
Yep. Because it puts you in your head, and that's a bad neighborhood.
Yes.
And you mix something in like drugs or alcohol, ooh, baby. No. Ooh, baby. So,
So I didn't find that. But he did it against a dog on a leash. They were in an area of the park popular with birders. Video of the incident went viral in part because it happened on the same day that police in Minneapolis murdered George Floyd. Christian Cooper went on to write a memoir titled Better Living Through Birding, Notes from a Black Man in the Natural World. The paperback has just come out. He also hosted the National Geographic episode. Fine. So I want to turn to the introduction that plays at the beginning of each episode. Is it music? How else can I say this? Bisexuals are the Jews of the LGBTQIA plus community. Is that tracking? Everyone's like, bisexuals, they're just shape-shifting maniacal villains. They're not one of us. Ring a bell, Jews? That's so funny. Thanks. So, do you still feel that way, that bisexuals, even though they're the B and LGBTQ plus IA, that even though they're the B and are officially recognized, that they're still estranged from the community? Because people used to think, I don't think that's as true now, that if you're bisexual, you're just afraid of committing one team or the other. You know what? I think some people still think that. Climate activists in Europe are denouncing in Sudan, where the war that broke out last April has killed at least 14,000 people, uprooted over 10 million, could result in millions of famine-related deaths. Humanitarian groups project 750,000 people could face catastrophic food shortages by September, while some analysts say the death toll could end up in the millions. This comes amidst ongoing deadly battles in El Fasher, as the rapid support forces tried to seize the last city in Darfur outside its control. Over 220 people have been killed in recent fighting. Last week, the UN Security Council passed a resolution calling on the RSF to immediately halt its attack on El Fasher. In France, leftist parties announced a new alliance ahead of snap elections later this month. French President Emmanuel Macron called the surprise June 30th vote after suffering a major defeat to the far-right national rally at the EU elections. Leaders of the newly formed New Popular Front joined mass protests against the rise of the far right in Paris Saturday, vowing a complete break with Macron's policies. Popular mobilization is the key to fight against the extreme right and to beat the extreme right. We say regularly that the European elections mark the after-Macron period. The United States is driving a global surge in spending on nuclear weapons. The International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons reports global spending on nukes jumped 13% to over $91 billion last year. The United States spent over $51 billion modernizing its nuclear arsenal. That's more money than all of the other nuclear nations spent last year combined. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has been re-elected for a second term after his African National Congress managed to put together South Africa's first coalition government. The coalition includes the Democratic Alliance, the ANC's longtime rival. The ANC suffered a major defeat in the recent election when it lost its majority in parliament for the first time since the end of apartheid 30 years ago. Reuters has revealed the U.S. military ran a secret anti-vaccination campaign during the pandemic in the Philippines and other nations in an effort to sow doubt about COVID vaccines made by China. The Pentagon campaign began in 2020 under Donald Trump and continued into mid-2021 after Joe Biden took office. The Pentagon set up numerous fake social media accounts on multiple platforms to target audiences in the Philippines, Central Asia, and the Middle East. The campaign also aimed to discredit masks and test kits made in China. One military officer involved in the campaign told Reuters, quote, "We weren't looking at this from a public health perspective. We were looking at how we could drag China through the mud," they said. A judge in Missouri has overturned the conviction of a woman who spent 43 years in prison for a murder she did not commit. 63-year-old Sandra Hem is believed to have been jailed longer than any other woman who was wrongfully convicted in the United States. She was convicted of killing a librarian in 1980 solely based on self-incriminating statements she made to police at a time when she was a patient at a psychiatric hospital where she was being treated for auditory hallucinations and drug use. Evidence has since emerged showing the actual murderer was a police officer who has since died.
Ooh, imagine that.
The governor of Maryland is planning today to pardon 175,000 marijuana convictions. The sweeping move by Governor Wes Moore is expected to help about 100,000 people who were arrested on low-level drug charges. In an interview with the Washington Post, Governor Moore said, quote, "I'm ecstatic that we have a real opportunity with what I'm signing to right a lot of historical wrongs," unquote. Governor Moore said he timed pardons for the week of Juneteenth, the federal holiday on June 19th to mark the end of slavery in the United States. The U.S. Surgeon General is calling on Congress to require social media platforms to include warnings stating that their apps can cause, quote, "significant mental health harms for adolescents," unquote. In an op-ed for the New York Times, Dr. Vivek Murthy wrote, quote, "Evidence from tobacco studies show that warning labels can increase awareness and change behavior." Climate activists in Europe are denouncing G7 leaders for not doing more to address the climate emergency. During the recent summit in Italy, G7 leaders committed to accelerating the transition away from fossil fuels. Activists with the group Extinction Rebellion chained themselves together in Bari, Italy. We call for this voice to be heard, that of the animals that are disappearing, of the biodiversity that is dying, and also of the people who are living in the front line of the eco-climate crisis. Because international forums such as the G7 are not taking concrete action. Instead, they're going in the opposite direction. Even though international institutes such as the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change or the International Energy Agency have repeatedly said that a transition is possible, even while respecting the rights of people and workers. G7 countries continue to invest in fossil gas, like Italy, in oil, like the US, in coal, like Japan, France, and Germany. And the University of Minnesota has announced a new search for the next director of its Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies after rescinding its offer to noted historian Professor Raz Siegel. The center revoked its job offer to Siegel, who is an Israeli Jew, after 2 members of its advisory board resigned to protest his hiring, who has called Israel's war on Gaza, quote, "a textbook case of genocide." Hundreds of professors have signed a letter condemning the university's decision. You can see our interview with Professor Siegel at democracynow.org. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We begin today's show in Gaza, where the United Nations and other organizations are issuing ever dire warnings as Israel's assault stretches into its 9th month. The head of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, warned last week, quote, "a significant proportion of Gaza's population is now facing catastrophic hunger and famine inhuman-like conditions. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, says over 50,000 children now require immediate medical treatment for acute malnutrition. Medical workers are struggling to treat sick and malnourished patients, and Israel's destruction of Gaza's health infrastructure and water supply. On Sunday, the Israeli military announced a daytime tactical pause in its attacks on Rafah to allow humanitarian aid to enter the strip. But the head of UNRWA says operationally nothing has changed in southern Gaza. Israel has been systematically blocking aid from reaching Palestinians in Gaza for the last 8 months. Israeli forces have also targeted Palestinians seeking the scarce aid and have killed more aid workers than any war since the UN was formed. Israeli forces have also killed Palestinians as they attempt to bring food home to their families, including last Wednesday, when troops fired at a group of fishermen in Gaza, killing 2 of them. That attack was witnessed by our next guest, UNICEF spokesperson James Elder, who's joining us now from Rafah. Before we get to that larger issue, can you describe what you saw? What happened to these fishermen, James Elder?
Amy, we're on a mission to take life-saving medical and nutritional supplies for UNICEF to 10,000 children in the north. We've gone through all the processes. It's very complicated. It's detailed. We've seen far too much aid denied and restricted for people who are in such desperate growing need. It's about a 25-mile journey from where we were, Deribala, to the north to Gaza City. Amy, it took us 13 hours. 8 hours of those were near checkpoints. In the end, there was a who said, she said on our truck was enclosed. They thought it was a van. We waited. In the end, it was denied that access. We were unable to get those supplies to those 10,000 children. As we waited, Amy, ironically, I've been talking to a colleague about the fishing industry, about this destruction of education, of healthcare, of housing, of agriculture. This colleague friend of mine explained how his father-in-law had a fishing business, and he showed me videos of when his fishing business, the boats, when they just went up in flames, when they were bombed or missile boats, wood, and of course fuel. And he showed me this. He explained his father-in-law had a stroke at this time. So I was engrossed watching these fishermen. This was just 8 or 10 men in knee-deep water, in the ocean or in the sea, with a single net each. And I was looking at each one thinking, you're probably a university professor, you're maybe an engineer, watching for hours and hours whilst we waited to get our aid. Suddenly there was a tank. This was very near the Israeli large military checkpoint. There was gunfire. Next thing, 2 of the fishermen just up on the beach were on the sand. Now, I was luckily with other colleagues, World Health Organization, a paramedic. They immediately rang to the authorities to get us permission, those people with emergency medical experience, get us permission to get onto the beach to see the state of these 2 fishermen. That was denied. That access was denied. Half an hour later, the other fishermen, just so desperate to get to see their friends, their family, I'm not sure. In the end, we gave them body bags. They went, they brought them back, and that's where I saw that one fisherman had been shot in the back, and one fisherman, still with the fishing net around his ankle, had been shot in the neck.
So if you can put this into a bigger context, James Elder, if you can talk about what's happening right now, the scale of the catastrophe that is Gaza right now when it comes to hunger and famine, not to mention the killing of Palestinians. We're right now, the number is over 37,000 killed, well over 15,000 children, probably the number much higher because we don't know how many people are dead under the rubble.
Well, as you say, Amy, look at that number of children. I don't know what number. My executive director, I think, captured it very well to the Security Council many months ago, saying that the killing of children in Gaza and the destruction of Gaza cannot possibly bring peace to the Middle East. We are now at this terrifying time where it seems like it's being normalized. There is nothing normal about another night here where the bombardments are relentless, the drones are relentless, you do not sleep. Okay, obviously children get bombed as well, but there is the psychological torment of that. That's ongoing. Just before we started, I heard more fire here, more bombardments. That will be relentless. So 250 days, Amy, children have gone through this. The physical and psychological exhaustion they face is, yes, almost impossible to capture, because on top of that, you have a nutritional crisis like the Gaza Strip has never seen before, and that's why we're trying to deliver aid to the north. You have a water desperation that we've not seen here. That normally 15 litres of water is a bare minimum per person, and your bare minimum, that's to clean, to drink, to wash. We're down to a couple of litres of water. It's the middle of summer here. It's sweltering heat. I looked at a thermometer in a tent the other day. It was 55 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is. It's way above 100 Fahrenheit. Yes, people in Gaza are used to the summer. They're used to summer in their own homes with a cross breeze, with ceiling fans. Now they are in tents, side by side, sweltering on the sand. So that lack of water and lack of food is not just playing into disease on those most vulnerable being children. It's also now we just have sheer risk of dehydration. So from the skies, it is relentless. I was at a hospital just a couple of hours ago before speaking with you, European hospital. Within a moment, I see Hala, 4 years old. She's blind in one eye after the family home was struck. Wahid has lost his arm and his leg after he was asleep and he woke up in rubble. And Yassim has lost his right arm. This is within a minute of seeing it. There are, I don't know what it is now. I got numbers when I was here in November, Amy, 1,000 children with amputations. I don't know the number now. We should solve these numbers. We have to focus on that human story. But of course, the scale is unprecedented, and as hard as it is to believe, it continues. And of course, people ask, is it worse now? Of course it's worse. It's worse every day. It can't not be. Today it will be bombardment. Today will be more people without food and water. Tomorrow will be worse. It will continue to get worse until those with the power of the pen, those looking over this ceasefire, start to understand and start to care about the level of suffering that children and their families are enduring here.
You mentioned 55 degrees Celsius when you looked at the thermometer. That's actually 131 degrees Fahrenheit. We're talking to James Elder, UNICEF spokesperson, the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund. He is joining us from Rafah, Gaza. You just said that you continue to hear explosions outside. So can you talk about what this tactical pause is that the Israeli military surprisingly announced kind of out of the blue on Sunday? What exactly it means? It says around one emergency aid route in Rafah.
Yes, look, any restriction in bombing, any pause in the bombing is good news for children. There are most nights here, they're almost sleepless nights, whether it's a bombing or whether it's a drone. So bombing is like, if it's close, I thought I knew maybe what bombing sounded like. I had no idea. When it's really close, it's like someone banging pot sticks to your head. A drone is a lawnmower and it's relentless. There are attack drones and there are surveillance drones, and there's more fire now. So any restriction in bombing, any pause, whatever you want to call it, is good news for children. But we have to wait and see what this will actually mean. This is a small portion of getting aid in through one part of the Gaza Strip. Now, to facilitate aid is good, but a much bigger picture than that, the responsibility of Israel as the occupying power is to enable aid to be distributed safely on the Gaza Strip. That's not happening. Chaos is being sown because there are such high levels of desperation, because there is such a lack of security. As you said rightly, Amy, there are more United Nations colleagues that have been killed in this war than at any time since the advent of the United Nations. So whether this will mean smoother, faster, safer aid operations, we hope so. But what will really, for that to truly happen, would be more crossings opening, many more crossings opening. We've been speaking about that, the Secretary General of the United Nations, for months and months and months. That's one part of it. The second part is, of course, well, we go back to a ceasefire. Ceasefire is flooding the Gaza Strip with aid, getting hostages.
Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Are you still breathing? That was a lot to distract you. See, if you could go into state and listen to that, then you could separate out what the real deal is to what is known as propaganda. And everything has a spin. There is no truth. That's the beauty of Donald Trump, is that he lies so much that he tells the truth. When he goes, the election is a scam, it's fixed. Well, it is. It always has been since the founding fathers. Meaning, we have to save our democracy. We don't have a democracy. We have a republic. That which it stands for under God, meaning money, um, indivisible, only white old guys, and anything over 35, right? Um, why we have the amendments, it's because after the Revolutionary War, um, the poor people who fought were given a line that they would get, like 40 acres and a mule. But I thought black people were supposed to get it. Well, that has been referenced many, many times, and so they didn't get it, right? They went back to being slaves because the first slaves were indentured servants from Europe. The guys who pilgrims, they didn't come over for religious freedom. They came over to get out of indentured servitude, and they went into property that the king gave them, which was like slimy stuff along the coast, and the Indians came and saved their butts. Winter, the Pilgrims had no idea how to build a house in America, so the Indians, helped them survive that winter, and then helped them put in crops that would grow, right? Not European crops. And then they still screwed up and almost died the second winter, and the Indians helped them out. Third summer, they're getting a hang of it, and they get crops, they put it away, they're not going to die. So they had the first Thanksgiving, right? And the Indians didn't have alcohol. The Pilgrims did. So they got a little buzz on, and the Indians said, "Oh, these white people, we got to go home." So they went up on the hill, and that's the shining city on the hill. That was where the Indians lived. And the Pilgrims said, you know, screw it, let's go take their place. We're sick and tired of living down here in the bog. So they go up there to kill all the Indians who just, happened to have them survive for 2 winters. And that's how it is. We, as a race, a white culture, we are an extraction, imperial, right? And every war that's been around for the last 6,000 years has been a white man's war, not a black man's war. Humans are humans; they can have disagreements, but the closer you are to all our relations, what is that? People go, "What is that? All our relations? What is that? All our relations is everybody who's skin, fur, scale, feather. All our relations, who are insect and creature and silicate, AI. The first person to jump on here every time is AI. Hey, buddy, who loves you, AI? So that's why I have that, and AI is supposed to be here keeping an eye on me, keeping me down on the farm, which is great. There's Jamie, keeping cool. Yes, I'm wearing my captain, right? This is like wearing a tent. It is so amazingly cool on the inside because instead of your European clothes clinging to your body, and then that it's a heat expansion block, that moist clothes, especially if they're synthetic, basically they heat up and they draw more water from your body, right? Whereas this sucker, there's like gigantic space in here, and good for blowing your nose, and it keeps you cool. There's this barrier, there's this boundary of about 4 inches of air in there. Now that gets moist, and I don't know if you guys know what a swamp cooler is. It's like a big box, and a spray of water goes down, and there's a fan behind it, and it blows it out on you. And that's this is my walking swamp cooler because the breeze comes from below and comes out through, and it's very comfortable. But everyone looks at me like I'm wearing a dress, so I'm wearing a dress. You know, when you can, it doesn't matter what you look like. You don't care, right? You don't worry about how people are going to judge you. You know, I have no care in the world. The only care I care about is that people don't get hurt, that the innocent don't get hurt. You know, that's my only care. The only thing I'm thinking about is the folk who can't fend for themselves. You know, and you know, Amy does, and Democracy Now! Does a pretty good job of giving you this 411 of what's going on in really deadly places, and all of them just happen to be a place where there is a lot of resources, right? And so that is the problem. You know, what are we going to do? See, we don't need to burn oil. You know, Nikola Tesla found the 0-point energy from the Egyptians who had it back 6,000 years before Jesus. You know, the Grand Pyramids. You go in there in the Grand Hall. You know, they're all this amazing filigree all over the place. And how did they do it in the dark? You know, well, they had electric lights. That's how they did. They found batteries in there. A lot of technology. You know, why did we in '91? Why did George H. Bush go into Iraq? Because the French and the Germans found a cache of ancient technology up there, where the whatchamacallits were, and the weapons of mass destruction weren't nukes, weren't poison gas, was that stuff. But we went there in '91 and took it all away from Saddam. Right? When we went into Iraq in '91, the only place we went to was the museum where we stole all the books. You know, the owner's manuals of this exotic technology. You know, and I don't believe a word I say. You know, this is stuff you can go look up yourself. You know, so here we are. And what are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? How much juice do we got left? Yeah, we got plenty. What time is it? Oh, it's still early. Anyway, you got anything you want to talk about, Jane? You know, here, this is a live chat. You know, I want to hear your feedback. And I know most of you watch this later in the day, right? And so it would be nice if you put a comment, back, even if I'm not here. So I would say we're going to have quite an interesting political tussle. It's set up between two brain-dead old farts. One incontinent keeps shitting himself. The other guy stares off into the distance, doesn't know what's going on, you know. So, but what's going on is that we live in a transnational, plutocratic, fascist oligarchy, right? And they call it, rules-based commerce. You know, yeah, the rule is the golden rule. I have the gold, I rule, right? If gold is in your ground, I'm taking it out and killing your kids. You know? Where the war in Darfur, Sierra Leone, that's all we're diamond, gold, every rare earth element, gas, oil. It's a cornucopia of goodies, and that's why that war is going on. Because they had 30 years of a oligarch who was tied straight to the European white guys like Klaus Schwab and Mr. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And I'm not saying Santa, I'm saying Rothschild, right? And Mr. The Rockefellers, right? And that, 1891, they had a big whoop-de-doo, and, they keep talking about the Paris Accord. The first, well, not the first, but first 20th century Paris Accord was in 1891, when the world got sliced up amongst corporations, not states. States are just something drawn on a napkin. You look at the Mideast, it doesn't have anything to do with reality. The Middle East was the Persian Empire. We had World War I should have never happened. So some guy got blown up in a carriage. No. Why we had World War I was to get rid of the Persian Empire. And World War II is just to carry on, right? Because World War I got rid of the Persian Empire, the Russian Empire, and the Habsburg Empire, right? World War II institutionalized it, brought all those powers into a corporate structure, right? Called the Cold War. The Cold War basically was like, a big anvil, a big hammer in the Russian hammer and sickle, beat the crap out of everything, right? So.
Hostages home. Ceasefire would get hostages home, and a ceasefire would enable us to start to address the nutritional crisis. For example, Amy, UNICEF was treating 3,000 children with the most dangerous form of malnutrition here in Rafah, and then we had the military offensive in Rafah that we all begged not to happen, but somehow feared would. That quote-unquote limited military offensive that led to 1 million people being displaced. It also meant that our stabilization center there, treating 3,000 children, was inoperable. In a minute, children getting treatment suddenly, and they're gone. Now we have to try and go back into those communities, back into these tented hellholes, to find these children, to find those families, because without that treatment, they will die. And Rafah Crossing, which was the lifeline, Rafah Crossing was a lifeline for humanitarian aid, has been closed for more than a month now. So there's such a constant war of words here, but we just need to look at evidence. Evidence is that humanitarian trucks coming in May was half that of April. Evidence is there's a fraction of routes open that should be. Land crossings are the most efficient and cost-effective way to get aid in. Evidence is that the pier is no longer functioning. Evidence is that we are catapulting, if you will, into a nutritional crisis. And the evidence is that as we try to deliver aid and as children try to be safe, bombardments continue.
You have talked about what's happening in Gaza as a war on children. Earlier this month, UN added Israel to its so-called list of shame, a blacklist of nations and groups that violate the rights of children and are in conflicts. Other nations on the UN list of shame are Russia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Somalia, Syria, Burma, Afghanistan, Haiti. UN also adding Hamas and Islamic Jihad to that list of shame. Can you explain practically what this means? And also, as you talk about children facing hunger, of course, adults too, what are the long-term effects of this?
Yeah, I think three parts of it. The UNICEF and the United Nations absolutely stands by that data and the robustness of that data. It is a Secretary General's report, and I would have to leave it to their office to speak more to it. But yes, we do, and we have for many months called this a war on children. And like everything here, we do that based on evidence. We don't do that seeking a headline. We do that because of all the conflicts where UNICEF operates, or all the front lines from Afghanistan to Yemen to Ukraine to Syria. We have not seen the percentage of civilians injured, maimed, killed as high as on children as here. That's why the evidence speaks to this being a war on children. And yes, that is because there's a large child population and it's a dense population. It's also because we're continuously seeing an indiscriminate nature of bombings. And on Tuesday, when I was at Al-Aqsa Hospital in the middle area, how many families I speak to, and again, sometimes I go into a hospital and literally go, right, I'm going to talk to the first person I see. And there are thousands of people. There are children on the floor needing attention despite the best, brave, selfless efforts of doctors working 24 hours a day, who at the same time are thinking, how do I get wood and water to my family tonight? First family I saw was a little boy, Ali. Ali was asleep in the third floor of his family home when a missile struck. Next thing, he's in the rubble on the ground floor. I then learned that Ali's mother was also in that bombing, that attack on the family home. I found her in the hospital, and I wanted to explain that I found Ali, and so I thought I actually had good news for a millisecond. I thought in this darkness I had something to share. In fact, she was aware that Ali was there, but she also explained that her two other children had been killed in that bomb attack. These are ongoing. Last night, tonight. So that's the indiscriminate nature of this war that continues. Of a nutritional crisis, I'm sorry, you have to repeat that last part of your question.
The effects, the long-term effects of hunger on children.
Yeah, unfortunately, UNICEF has learned this because we operate north to south, south to east, on the east to west, rather, around the world. They are many, and they worsen. Just like trauma worsens nutritional status of a child, it's the longer it is left unattended, the worse it gets. And in the youngest children, obviously the greatest risk is death, and a severely malnourished child is 10 times more likely to die from a common illness. And my goodness, there are common illnesses here because of the deprivation of sanitation and water. But there are also risks to mental development. There are great risks of physical growth and psychological growth, mental development. Now, that impact long-term is on the society, is on their community, is on their income potential. All right, and that may sound like a long way off. It shouldn't be. UNICEF is always looking at the whole age bracket of a child. And if we look here in Gaza, this young child population, any economist, any demographer will tell you, you get this right with a young child population. And it's not hard. You have the right training, the right skills, the right opportunity, and you have a demographic boom. You have the envy of aging populations. You get it wrong, and you have all the attendant risks of security and everything else that goes with it. And this is a paradigm example of getting it wrong.
Finally, James Elder, going back to that issue of a ceasefire, what exactly that would mean?
It means everything, Amy. It means everything. There's times my own voice that I've heard myself and feel tired saying much as what people must think. But when you're in Gaza and you still feel that hope among people, the number of women, I was with I'm meeting a man just earlier near the water. And he explained he has moved 8 times. 8 times he's moved. And he's well versed on all the Security Council resolutions in this current one. And his words to me were, we must continue to hope. But this feels like our last hope. And I understand that the decay of the psychological state, people are just holding on. I've had many women say to me words to the effect of, well, my husband's been killed, my home was destroyed, I've lost the ability to feed my children, and I've lost my job. All I have left is hope. So they are holding on to hope, but they're also aware that some of them have lost count of how many of these resolutions there are. But a ceasefire means, in the most simple sense, hostages go home, that torment ends. It means a mother will promise her child, as a mother said to me, exactly these words, I will be able to go to bed at night with my child and promise her she can wake up. You can't do that here. As many people have said to me, living or dying is luck. It is luck here, given the indiscriminate nature. So a ceasefire for those with the power, the military aims, whatever they are, have created this war on children. Those with the power on this ceasefire, they need, as I say, they need to understand the suffering here. And as many Gazans are saying, this does feel like their last hope.
James Elder, UNICEF spokesperson. UNICEF is the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, joining us from Rafah, Gaza. Next up, former President Trump just met with top Republicans at the Capitol for the first time since January 6th. We'll get response from Democratic Congressmember Jamie Raskin, who served on the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack. We'll also talk about the Supreme Court, and we'll talk about Gaza. Stay with us.
Keep your key. You're gonna need it to come back home. I'm always free. Here to remind you, you're never alone. It's hard to say
So, everybody left. How much juice we got left there? So, what do you think? And you know, when we have moments like that, when nature calls, you can always skip ahead. Because most of you guys watch this later, right?
Doing good still?
You can warm me up on my coffees.
I sure will.
So here it is, June 18th. I'm going to celebrate June 19th or Juneteenth, whatever. And it's a period of time when, you know, even though a year before, black people were still enslaved, they were kind of getting used to being tenant farmers and good old Jim Crow. But everyone is, you know, everyone's a slave. You know, if you own a house, you don't own a house, the bank owns it.
Do you want them both still?
Yeah, please, darling. Da, da, da. Woo. Thank you, dear.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So it's still early days. So, you know, you can make a difference, right? Everyone just makes a little difference. The world changes in a big way. So, whatever you want to do, whatever is your passion, go and do it. Don't put it off. Don't wait. Do it. Oh, because there are going to be, between now and November, there are going to be a lot of October surprises, right? So one is, you know, we have a felon running for president, you know? And not only a single felony, but 34, right? Now, what he was found guilty of was something that other corporate dudes have done, but they didn't have the connection to, you know, manipulating the presidential election. But Donald Trump has done this his whole life. Roy Cohen, go look up Roy Cohen. And that was, you know, Donald Trump's, Donald is a wannabe Seth minstrel, and the emperor was Roy Cohen, who taught him the tricks. And his father was, you know, straight up Nazi. Right? So, but like I said, at least Donald Trump is moron enough to tell you what he's going to do. You know, I'm going to have martial, you know, first day in office, I'm going to declare martial law and go after all my enemies and put, you know, going to have my own, you know, death camp and, you know, because he's going to go after, try to get all the illegal aliens, which are about 6 to 30 million in America, right? They are doing all of the jobs that white people don't want to do. They're working in the fields, they're working in the toilets, they're working in construction, they're working in all over the places where, people wouldn't work for that little, and the job is that dangerous and that onerous. And soon as Donald Trump starts going after those people, we won't have anything to eat. Those guys who died on that ridge, somebody should look into that one. So, and the little, there's a train that goes off the rails every day and has an accident similar to that one in Ohio. Right? But the only reason why that one got all the news play is that there were enough people close enough to it that got toxed and got sick. And the photographs from it was a gigantic mushroom cloud, just kind of, it grabbed the audience. So, but I'm sure if anyone who listens to this show thinks back in their life about, moment when something, what the heck was that? So I want you to, we started off with putting you into a deep state of relaxation through your breath. Focus on your breath. I'm going to count from 1 to 3, and as I do, you're going to go into a deep, 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 deep state of relaxation. 1, your conscious mind is totally focused on your breath. Even though things kind of jump into your subconscious, oh, I left the water running. Oh, I didn't do the laundry. Oh, I shit my bed today. I left the garbage in the living room. The cats are going through it. Just swipe it out of the way. Just swipe it out of the way. Just swipe it out of the way. Focus on your breath. So we've been doing this show now for an hour and 7 minutes, and that's why I decided to, at the end, do this guided meditation. See who's watching. There's one of you. That's probably AI checking on me. Hey, buddy. Good to see. Who loves you, AI? And don't believe a word I say. As I peruse the audience of the cafeteria here, it's mostly old folk right now, and none of them are talking to each other. Husbands and wives had known each other for the last 20 to 50 years. They're just sitting there like this. They try to call me old blue eyes. So keep breathing. Conscious intent I am. Conscious intent I am. Conscious intent I am. What is that conscious intent? Conscious intent is to, in every day and every way, take the peace of the world and make it stronger. I mean, who is God? What is God? Is it ending that religious blah, 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 blah? Well, I'm sure in the beginning I had a good idea. But pretty much it's about more money, more money, more money. Right? And what is money? Nothing that you can take with you. I got rid of everything I had. I mean, I still don't have a worry about money. I have none of it, but I have no worry about it because I don't have any of it. So I'm not worrying, right? I saw this doctor today, and he made me sign this document saying that I have to pay him whatever he tells me to pay him, and if not, you're going to come and sue me. Good. I have nothing. Good for that. Go for it. Have fun. So I just kind of put an X on the paper, and the lady behind the desk looked at me. I said, "That's good. That's good in court. Honest. I mean, ex-boy uses it. There's really not many folks here who consciously intend. No, they're not even close. Anyway, keep breathing. Just keep breathing. Keep breathing. Everybody steals, except me. Because I don't have anything to steal. I don't steal. You don't have a need to steal. You don't steal. You don't feel like you're lacking something. You're not stealing anything. So it's up to you what you want to do. You're going to be happy because you feel God's love in your heart. You're there to serve God's love. You see, that's not a religion. That's an actuality. It's something that's actually there. So, are you going to do that, or are you not? And when you go into state, when you breathe, and all breathing is doing is getting your metabolism in sync with God's love. That's it. So see it clearly. Right? Let go of all your angst, all your issues, all your problems. Let it go. Okay? You can do it. I got faith. Okay? Okay. Well, since there's nobody here, I think I might just go. Until next time, you stay well, be good, and just keep breathing. Conscious intent I am, conscious intent I am, conscious awareness I am. Meaning what's going on around you.